What a pleasure for the Kiros Report to invite to you someone whom I met at a dinner party given by the renowned thinker Victor Wallace, whose name is Yifan Liao. I'm sure I'm butchering it because my Chinese is not reliable.
Yeah, no,
I
you pronounced my name correctly, like perfectly.
thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
You're so kind. This is going to be a very special episode. We'll be having a dialogue, not really an interview, so that we can bang ideas, share them, critique them back and forth. Yifan Liao was a graduate student at Columbia University, correct me if I'm wrong, and now is doing graduate level work at Harvard University's Business School. And she's finishing a graduate work in China itself.
Oh,
This,
yeah.
please.
Yeah, so I have my master degree at Columbia University in sociology, and right now I'm a PhD student at Peking University in China. And this is my year of field work. I'm doing a joint PhD at Harvard History Department. So this is my year as a visiting PhD here to finish my dissertation.
Incredible. So impressive. So why don't we start and talk about human nature? What does human nature mean to you? What are we human beings like? Uh, do you think? Are we good? Are we bad? Are we a combination of both? What are your thoughts?
Well, I like to me, human nature is not a fixed thing. Like you cannot say like human being is born in a good nature or born in an evil nature. I feel like the human mind and behavior are shaped by the environment, by the society, by the social milieu he or she raised up. So there is no, no fixed version of human nature. Like for me, like you need, like for example, somebody says people are always greeting and people always like want to um like focus on themselves or preserve their own interest. I think this is the thing, like we do have some nature instinct of self-preservation, but this self-preservation not necessarily need to hurt others, not necessarily need to sacrifice others' interest to benefit ourselves. So yeah, I think human beings are kind of animals involved with its environment, and every individual's also shaped by the society they're raising up.
Hmm. Because, as you know, and as a sociologist, I'm sure you have thought about this quite carefully. Marx, whom in my mind is, if not the greatest, one of the greatest thinkers of the 19th century, who gave us this idea of socialism, seems to have done so with a particularly positive premise about human beings, that human beings under ideal conditions are compassionate, kind, cooperative, self-sacrificing, and capable of delivering great moral actions aiming at what I may call maximizing human happiness. And there are those who have read Marx, particularly the Marx of the economic and philosophical manuscripts, brilliant essays, a collection of them, which he developed when he was barely 26 years old, only 2 years younger than you, in which he hypothesizes about the possibility of envisioning a human society in which we could write poetry in the morning, hunt in the afternoon, wine and dine at night, and so on and so on. This vision of the best that we can expect from human beings is often ridiculed, demeaned by those who, like Thomas Hobbes in the 17th century, had a radically different vision of what human beings are. That humans are greedy, selfish, perpetually desiring, and nasty, and the environments that they create are equally short, nasty, and brutish. These are two contrasting visions of human beings, Yifan. And among the great Chinese thinkers, beginning with the anarchist Lao Tzu, but also the dreamer, the poet Chuang Tzu, and then much later Confucius, and much later Mao himself was drawing from these major traditions, but also trying to empower peasants, millions of them, to organize them by telling them their immense capacities to take care of themselves, provided that they put an end to the greed and to the selfishness that was running rampant in Chinese feudal society and so on, which led him to be the spearheading leader of the Cultural Revolution, aiming at purging the selfishness and greed as practiced by the intellectuals, which then gave us an idea of socialism, Chinese style. What do you stand on this? Do you tilt towards Thomas Hobbes, or do you tilt towards Marx and then Mao as a sociologist? What are your thoughts? I'm sorry for speaking so longishly.
No. I think it's very thought-provoking. You juxtapose these three different thinkers together. For me, as I will still stick to my arguments, I think human nature is changed with the environment. So for Hobbes, like when he talked about the grading nature of human beings, like the social reality he observed and abstract his theory is like from 16th century to 18th century's development of capitalism. So he looked at like how capitalist figures they compete with each other's, like how people in capitalist society, which is haunted by this, a kind of like pursuing for money, this spirit of pursuing of money, they are influenced by this zeitgeist in a German word, like the spirit of that time. So they perform like a very grading, very self-centered figure. So he has his own, like his thinking is limited by his own time. And for Marx, like when he talk about those human beings who help each other, selflessness, like who help each other and who sacrifice their own interest, who think of each other. It is this kind of society or this kind of like human behavior happened in an ideal society, as you said, in a communist society or in a like, you know, the fully flourished socialist society. So this is his dream, because at that kind of society, like we are, you know, the material foundation is fully established, and like we don't have the private ownership in that society, or the productive materials are controlled by the society. So everybody are free from worry their, you know, their living existence. They can do whatever they want with the advantage of the rich social wealth. But like for Mao, he is doing a revolution. He led the revolution in a society which is, you know, like China in 1920s is a semi-colonized society, and this society is basically agricultural one. We don't have the you know, the great foundation of material wealth. So people still kind of selfish or egocentric. If we need to understand humans' nature, we should put them into the society described by those great thinkers.
I was intrigued, Yifan, by your curiosity, which, among other things, led you to go to Cuba, correct?
Yes.
What did you observe in Cuba that reminded you of China, let's say, in the 1970s? It's as if modern Cuba now is where China was in the 70s. Two questions. One, why is Cuba still in the 1970s when China has managed to overcome huge poverty for almost 1 billion people and is now marching towards history, which, according to some thinkers, might sadly give us the next empire. We don't want empires, but that's a question that we'll address towards the end. But China seems to be moving towards becoming a major imperialist power. And yet, Cuba, with a considerably measured, mitigated number of human beings, is still sandwiched in the 1970s. How do you look at this sociologically? Examine it as a sociologist.
Okay, first of all, I want to say China will never become an imperialist power, but I think we can address this point in the end of interview or in the end of our conversation. And for Cuba, as you know, my impression is when I visit there, I feel I take a time machine, go back to the 1980s China. Like Cuba, why it's similar to China in 1980s? It is because it has two-track system. Like they have a market system and they also have a planned economy system. And for the goods in the market, they are very pricing. And for people who still get their salary from the planned economy system, they basically don't have enough money to buy goods from this market. So their life is very stressful because the support provided by the government through the planned economy system actually cannot sustain their daily demand. So a lot of Cuba people, they have double works or double jobs. Some of them still have jobs in the planned economy system, but other member of this family will work in the private sector and to earn extra money to subsidize their family so they can access more goods on the market. But the situation is very difficult. I talked to a businessman who running a Chinese restaurant in Cuba. The Cuban people, Cuban employee work in that restaurant can only get 500 peso for a day, but kind of 1 pound of pork sold in Cuban markets is like 1,200 peso. So that literally means their salary for a day cannot afford a pound of pork. Their life is very difficult. And I think so. And I think this is, this economic system makes me really think of China in 1980s. We facing the same situation of two-track system. Like for why Cuba is still in that stage, I think there are two reasons. One is the long-term sanction of the United States. It's kind of barring Cuba from access outside resources. And this sanction is, for Cuba people is very hard. It's very harsh because Cuba is Cuba is a small island. It is not like Russia. If you sanction Russia, Russia still can maintain its own economy, but Cuba needs to do trade with outside world. So its economy is basically trade oriented. It cannot maintain itself. So if you close the gate of Cuba, this country will, it's hard for them to sustain themselves. This is the one thing, the sanction of the United States. And the other thing is, I feel Cuba is more strict on its planned economy. That means they're hesitate to do the markets-oriented reform. Fidel Castro, he actually visited China during the beginning of China's reform and opening up. He visited China in maybe 1992 or 1993, around this year. And he praised China's reform and opening up. But when he come back to Cuba, he still, choose to wait to see how China is doing, like whether this kind of reform will hurt socialist cause or not. So Cuba, like maybe after 40 years waiting, they think, okay, China is doing good, or it's still safe for the Chinese governments to lead this market-oriented reform, and which won't hurt the socialist regime. So they choose to start Cuba's version of reform and opening up. I still remember they have the law passed in 2021, which gives the private business more more freedom, more access to doing business with outside world. So after 2021, the private sector of Cuba began to burgeon or began to grow like China.
Okay, superb. That was detailed and informative, as I thought it would be. Now, let's talk about Chinese socialism. What kind of socialism is China developing? Is it a blend of the two-track system, as you put it, which was prominent in the 80s and is being exemplified in Cuba and also Russia and a few other European democracies, including the Scandinavian countries, most particularly Norway and Sweden, I think, which are trying to blend market systems with planned economies and so on. What kind of socialism is China developing? Again, look at it sociologically, objectively, that is.
I think like if you read the official report of China, it will use the socialism with Chinese characteristics to describe the socialist path China now is pursuing. But for me, if I put it in my own words, I would say China is, if we examine its economy and also its political economic system, I would say it's a planned market economy system. That means we use market to accumulate wealth, but this process is planned and is controllable. So first of all, we have a limited privatization and marketization. So like you can buy all different goods in the market, but you cannot use, but not everything is marketized in this way. So we, for example, like the university education is still in some way, have the feature of the planned economic arrow. Like for my tuition fee in China, I actually paid nothing for my college and graduate education. Yes, you should pay your college tuition, but for those excellent students, the government will pay back the tuition to you when you finish your college education. And all the common price for a college education is maybe 6,000 RMB a year. And this is if you change this RMB to USD, like maybe it's like 900 USD for a year. It's almost affordable for common family in China. But we will also like give tuition back to those excellent students as a kind of way to stimulate students to study hard. But for graduate students, I basically pay nothing for my tuition fee, and my housing rent in China is 900 RMB a year in Beijing. So it's if you change this to USD, it's 128 USD for a year in Beijing. But here, my rent at Harvard is 2,400 USD for a month. Yeah, it's very expensive. Like if I don't get my stipend or if I don't get a scholarship, I cannot live here. I cannot, I cannot continue my pursuing of education in the United States. So like I think in China, there's still some field are resist the logic of marketization and commodification. Like for example, in China, the prostitution or sex work is totally illegal, and we don't have the business of surrogacy, or we don't have the business of drug dealing. It's because we think those fields are related with the, you know, the dignity as a human being. So we refuse commodification of everything we think will degrade humans' dignity. So we have a very limited privatization and marketization in China. Also, like for the second things is, I would argue China is still a socialist country. It is because the Communist Party or the socialist government still take control of the markets, the economic development in China. The business people or the private company, they will influence Chinese politics in some way, but they cannot make the, you know, highest decision as what we see in the United States. Like the businessman can become a leader here, the highest leader here. But in China, this is almost unimaginable. Like governments will taming those business men, and they, you know, if they do something hurt the socialist cause in China, those companies will get punished by the governments. For example, I don't know whether you know the case of Didi. It's a Chinese version of Uber in China. Do you know that?
No,
Probably.
please inform us.
Okay. So Didi is a Chinese counterpart to Uber. It provides riding hauling service in China. So, and Didi, it's, you know, like maybe 2 years ago, Didi want to list it itself on the stock market in New York. So because it want to enter the stock market, it's selling, or it released all the sensitive transportation data to the public when it want to enter the stock market. So this behavior basically hurt the security, the national security of China. So Chinese government, the reaction of Chinese government is like it banned the user to download the app from like the Apple stores or, you know, app stores. So it's basically banned the kind of business or commerce of this company to regulate the company's behavior. And this company, you know, finally they decide, okay, we will stop this process of listing ourselves in New York stock market. In this way, like the Chinese government taming the capitalist development in China, it controlled the rampant pursuing of profits of capitalists in China. So that is what I mean. Even if there is like business tycoon in China, the government still take the highest control of the socialist development. This is the second thing, like the government take control. The first sense is we have the limited marketization in China. And the third sense is, I would argue that we're still a socialist country. It is because we have China has a professed pursuing of socialism. We write it down into our constitution, and also we educate our citizens with the socialist ideal. So when I was young, like we are taught to be the successors of socialist cause when I was in elementary school, in middle school. So everybody, I think, okay, we are marching into a socialist future, and like we right now we are in preliminary stage of socialism, and if our generation contribute our own share to the development of China, we will get into the middle stage of socialism, and in the end maybe generations later, we will marching into what Marx described about the communist society. So everybody received this mass education when they are young. So there is a social expectation on this country to really realize socialist ideal in the future. This kind of public expectation will form soft restrictions on government behavior. So if our government like quit the socialist cause in one point, people will start to rebel. People will think you kind of you fail to live to your promise to people. So probably if China not become a socialist country in the future, we won't have a People's Republic of China. We will have China, but it is not today's China we are talking about.
That's wonderful. And now let's talk about the healthcare system in China. Try to contrast it, since you have spent a few years at Colombia, and you do have access to the American healthcare system, which is the ultimate embodiment of a capitalist practice. Contrast that, if you can, to the philosophies underlying the distribution of health rights to Chinese people.
Well, healthcare system in the United States, even if like I think I do heard of it, but it's not like something happened to me because I'm super healthy. I never go to see doctor. I know I buy the house insurance. But as I told you, I practice Kung Fu, and I was like super strong. So I haven't experienced any, I haven't seen doctor here. So it's a very weird for me to compare these two systems. But I would say the healthcare system, which makes me feel kind of unease, is you have a like fully marketized healthcare system, and sometimes but in China, everything is healthcare is still a social welfare for everybody. So we don't have yes, we have a market. We have some company to do this, but like to provide more advanced service. But we still have a baseline which is secured by the government or by the public system to provide basic healthcare to everybody. And here, which makes me kind of unease, is like not everybody can get there. If they won't be treated by the doctor, they cannot get the treatment they want. And like for I know the health care reform launched by Obama government. It's like basically he wants to, I don't know whether it's correct. I just like heard of it, and he wants to buy the healthcare service from private companies through the governments. But the private company who get paid by the government, well, they will refuse to they will refuse to give the healthcare to those applicants they think they are not qualified, or even if they give healthcare to those people who passed their check for their qualification check. Sometimes they will, in the end, they will refuse to pay the bill to those people when they are in need. So we heard of the gun shoot of the healthcare CEO in New York City. And I don't know. I as an outsider, I cannot really compare. It's just my basic understanding of this difference.
I appreciate that. And now, take me to the streets of Shanghai or Peking. Take me to a market where Chinese citizens are coming to shop for their daily needs. What exactly happens in this market? What do you see? Millions of people are shopping. Describe the supermarkets for me, the street vendors, the class compositions, the rich, the poor, appearing on the streets or at supermarkets to buy. How do you see them interacting? Is there resentment? Are some buying more than others? Some have parked their Ferraris outside, and others have something like DD to go home. This is where I think you, with your sociological eye, could decipher to see people's everyday lives.
Well, I would say yes, in supermarkets, there are different, there are different range of goods with different quality and price. And some people can afford more expensive goods. Some people go to the luxury shops to buy something which is not like they're not the goods for their daily maintenance. It's just to showcasing to observers to show their wealth. And some people, they can only access those very basic like the living staple for their life. But like basically there is an unequal buying in China. Yes, because of we do have some as we said, the class differentiation among Chinese people due to the marketized or reform and due to the unequal accumulation of wealth in China, we do have the class differentiation. But almost everybody, China won't experience hunger or massive hunger, or as like if you want something but you don't have money to buy, everybody actually can buy their daily maintenance, even if those are not in a good quality, but nobody will die from hunger or die from short of daily maintenance. So this is a big difference compared to Mao's era. compared to the period of Cultural Revolution. And I think in the future, this wealth gap will be gradually eliminated, as like China has the alleviation of poverty project, which is launched for almost like five and more years, like 5 years. And this project of alleviating poverty do help Chinese people. Like I remember, like before this project, some village still don't have, no, they don't have the access to outside world. They're still like be segregated in the mountainous area. But after this project, every village have a road, like every village will be connected by the transportation system of the national transportation system. That means you can just drive through the main road to every village. So everybody has the opportunity to get out of the segregated situation and to pursuing their own life. This is what Chinese government done during the last 5 years. And as I told you, I really believe there is a social expectation restricted the government's behavior. So in the future, if the government not do more things to wipe out the wealth gap, or to make everybody can access the wealth accumulated in this time period, people will start to revolt.
Incredible. And now, sociologically, what do you attribute this incredible achievement of the Chinese society, with millions of people, to have overcome hunger, as you put it, for millions of people in such a short period of time? Does this have something to do with a particular nature of the Chinese people? Is there something that is very special about the Chinese to have done this? What do you
No,
attribute?
I don't think this is something special to Chinese people, but this is something special to socialist system, first of all, and second, to China's history. It's not, I don't think, human nature, for me, they have, as I told you, first, it's changed with the environment. Second, I think like people around the world, they share the same basic instincts as human race. So, but what you asking about, why China like can launch this project and can achieve this astounding things to get people rid of poverty? I think first of all, because we have the kind of centralized governmental system left by Mao's era. It's Chairman Mao, even if right now some people criticize him, some people hate him because of the Cultural Revolution. It is a traumatized experience for many people in China. But Chairman Mao do left highly centralized, highly easily mobilized system for current government to mobilize resource to assign resources to the field they need. Like it's this system is very efficient to channel the resources to the field. Government think we should it will function in a more effective way. So this system is kind of this system has something to do with the Soviet model of socialism. Like if you think of Soviet Union, it also achieved the industrialization within a very short time period. So this system has something to do with the commonality of socialism. This is the first sense. And the second sense is China, because of Cultural Revolution, a lot of people are live in hunger. A lot of people are live in demand, and people have this kind of consensus that poverty is not socialism. Like if the slow development is also not socialism. So we should, make use of our time to accumulate wealth to get people rid of poverty. So because of this traumatized experience, the suffering in Cultural Revolution, when Chinese people meet the chance of reform and opening up, everybody think we should make use of this time. We should, really help ourselves to get rid of these miserable living conditions. So even if there is a two-track system at the beginning of reform and opening up, even if there is, like people facing the pricing situation of goods, they cannot buy many things at the beginning of reform and opening up. People still feel hope in the future. People still think, okay, we meet the chance to lift up our family. So we should devote ourselves into this social trend to make more money, to develop ourselves. And so people still have a very optimistic view in the future, even if there is, people experience the inequality during the beginning of reform and opening up, because we have this, because our reference is Cultural Revolution. We refer this equalization of that time period to Cultural Revolution. So we think it's a good time. So we're still optimistic about the future. But because I went to Cuba, and I found this is not the case of Cuban people, because Cuban people don't have the Cultural Revolution. So like for them, they will compare the wealth gap in the beginning of their reform and opening up to the, to their stable life, to their equal life in the former period. So because they don't have this social turmoil, they think the unequalization of wealth in reform and opening up is endurable. But for Chinese people, because we don't have a peaceful life before the reform and opening up, so we think the wealth gap in reform and opening up is acceptable, and compared to the past of Cultural Revolution, compared to the suffering of Cultural Revolution, we think this time period has more chance, has more opportunity for our individual development. So I feel Chinese people like still have, compared to Cuba people, they are more optimistic when they are in 1980s to the future.
Excellent. We have about 10 minutes left, and the interview has hardly begun, really. You're so prolific, so rich, so smart, and so open-minded. So why don't we end this episode with a discussion of two things, really? One, there are some people who are worried that now that China is becoming an economic power and one of the central leaders of BRICS, that it may become an imperialist nation in competition with what some people contend is happening to the US, namely the American empire is declining. As you know, there have been empires in human history, African empires, Indian empires, Chinese empires, and so on. And anything human, by definition, is impermanent. And since empires are also comprised of human beings, if human lives are impermanent, it follows that the life of empires will also be equally impermanent. And in that, when one empire declines, it's conceivable that another empire might take its place. Do you worry about this? I'm going to pursue this in a second episode that we're going to do when you return to China after you settle down and you finish your dissertation. I want us to do a special episode on the youth of China, their dreams, their hopes, so on and so on, which I cannot even broach here. That would be a second episode that I would like to do with you. But for now, let's just do a very brief, cursory analysis of this fear. Do you worry about this also?
No, I don't worry about this. I think people have this worriness. It is because they think China from the lens of West culture. They think China from, they think China as a capitalist power or as an as an Western power who developed itself but based its own development on on abstracting resources from other country. I think this is not something embedded in capitalist in Western nature, but it's something related with capitalism because capitalism is a system that will abstracting surplus value. It has an unlimited pursuing of surplus value. So it's but China, as if my argument is convincing to you or to other audience, if you think China is somehow still a socialist country, so I don't see there is any trend for socialist country to to pursuing surplus value unlimited. It want to gain wealth, but this is not not we don't want an unlimited wealth. We hope this wealth can if everybody can have a better life or have a stable life and people can live in a society as described by Marx, as mentioned by you, I don't think there is a goal or there is a necessity for this country to still pursuing more wealth, more surplus value. So
Incredible.
yeah, this is my understanding.
You're quite right, and yes, if I'm right in summarizing Marx's vision at the age of 26, in which he hypothesizes of the possibility of organizing a human society in which we can do poetry in the morning, hunting in the afternoon, and then dine and wine with human beings, friends, families, and others at night. And in that, he thought that this is within the range of human capacity. If you're right that China is moving in this direction, then one of my dreams, which is to maximize human happiness on a global plane, could actually give us a vision of an alternative society that does not have to commodify our human lives and reduce us to greedy, selfish, and short-sighted human beings. The Kiros Report has truly been honored to have engaged you in this wonderful conversation. And as I said earlier, I plan to invite you again and again in the future so that we can do annual reports of the state of the human condition in China. Thanks for agreeing to come to the Kiros Report.
Thanks, Kiros. Thanks, Theaters.
Thank you so much. The Kiros Report is supported by the Hutchins Center at Harvard University, and may I politely ask my viewers, those of you who are viewing this television program, to consider becoming members and subscribe to it, as I am, for the first time in my career, attempting to monetize the Kiros Report that I have been running for the past 18 years without a penny. Thank you so much.